In my quest to find the truth and nothing but the truth, we'll be investigating some eyewitness accounts from both Stanley and Kathy in this season of He Said, She Said, Evidence and Confessions. Who is in the right or wrong? Today we'll be focusing on Kathy's statement. I interviewed her for info on Stanley's behaviors and what drives him to do what he does. Evidence 1. Stanley's interpretation and incorrect information. There is one thing that actually comes to mind that Stanley did. Remember the day you had to take me to work? Do you remember that day?
I remember
where
that day.
Apparently, was it the day before that? The day before that day that he said he would take me?
No, it was probably that day. At that point, I was well enough to take a turn at taking you to work.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what he was doing, I would volunteer. I would say, well, I'll take Arturo today since you're doing thus and so. So this one particular day, it was his plan to take Arturo to work. And he got busy with doing something with Hector.
With the Tonkin truck that I
With
can
the
recall.
truck. And he told Arturo that Kathy's going to take you to work today. Meanwhile, I'm in the house totally oblivious to these plans, nor did he relay that information, which I would have gladly taken him had he said something. But it was time for Arturo to go to work, and he came in the house, and he was all wide-eyed as to who was going to take him to work. And I said, Stanley is. And he said, no, Papa said you were. He said he told you that you were going to take me to work. And I said, no, we didn't have that conversation. So as we went out the door, I said to Stanley, I'll take Arturo to work, but you never told me that I was to do that. And of course, he swore up and down that, yes, we did have that conversation. So this happens, and sometimes he'll misinterpret a whole conversation. Like Sunday, we were talking about the three branches of government, and they are the judicial, the executive,
And the legislative.
and the legislative. And he said it was the executive, the judicial, and Congress. And Seneva said, no, they're all three named the way I stated it the first time. And then the next thing you know, he starts saying the very same thing Seneva said. And I said, well, Stanley, that's what she's saying, but you're arguing with her. And so then he maintained that, no, it was Congress. And I don't know that he's been able to prove that to us since, because in his mind, that's the way it is. But all of America knows the three branches of government.
With that being said, let's dive into the info we've got on Stanley. Number 1, eyewitness account from his daughter, who can back up her mom's statement. Here's what she had to say.
What have you noticed about your dad that interprets, things? He kind of interprets information. He gets it wrong sometimes.
Sometimes he misunderstands what you're saying.
Yeah, but...
And then when you try to correct him, he acts like he understood completely. What you were talking about is just, he doesn't want to admit he totally misunderstood.
Okay, see, what happened was he was supposed to take me to work one day, but then he said...
That was a totally different situation, yeah.
Well, that was interpreting, he said Mama was supposed to take me to work.
Yeah, but he forgot. And then he didn't want to openly admit he forgot.
Because he was helping my dad with something that day, but the schedule was he was supposed to take me.
Yes.
Then he acted like it was Mama's fault.
All along supposed to be Mama, and that was not the case.
And, Dad kind of said something, right? What did he tell you?
I don't remember what he said. I wasn't there.
He was there when Mama confronted him about that.
So,
is there anything else your dad does that kind of I don't know, he'll put words in other people's mouths. That's one thing.
Yeah, he'll do that too. And
has he done that to you, his only daughter?
Sometimes, but I can't think of a specific instance right off the bat.
I know when he said Congress, the legislative, and the executive.
Yes.
That was one thing he was...
He completely got that one wrong, and he would not admit that he got that wrong. He said the three branches of government. were Congress, executive, and judicial. And we were explaining to him that's not how it really goes. Congress is the legislative. So we don't, that's how we call the three branches of government. Legislative, executive, and judicial. We don't say Congress, executive, and judicial. Even though Congress is the legislative, that's not the term. That's not the terminology we use when we describe.
And even he told me a long time ago before that legislative.
Yeah, but see, he didn't want to admit that was actually technically incorrect the way he was saying it.
Were you getting on them?
I was getting on to him.
And
he refused to admit he was wrong. Well, no, that's just what we call it. That's what we call it. No, we don't. That's not what we say. We don't say that. Incorrect, Dad. That was wrong.
Now,
he did. I mean,
another thing he did is he put his white underwear in the laundry with the white cleaning rags that he was using under the house. Now, why would you ever put cleaning rags in with your own clothes? I have no idea. But these cleaning rags were bright red, and they'd never been washed before. And so I told him, I said, these rags need to be washed separately if you're going to not throw them away. The next thing you know, I'm taking his clothes out of the dryer, and all of his underwear have pink splotches on them. So he wears pink underwear. Now the world knows.
A tutu.
He wears a tutu in private, and he wears pink underwear when we go anywhere.
While Stanley Dalton has had odd moments, here is another statement from Kathy on Stanley and what she noted. Quote, he failed to thread his belt through 2 belt loops, and it looked funny. Evidence 2, Stanley thinking he is right.
So, was there ever been a time, I mean, you've mentioned before on this show, how when you tell him or discuss something with him, he argues with you, he's always right about anything or everything.
Well, Deanna knows this, and this goes back 60, 70 years. So I've only been on the scene almost 50, and we all see a pattern to this. So it isn't anything I'm making up. He was this way when he was unmarried and when he was a child. Deanna knows. Maybe you need to get a little testimony from Deanna next time you're in Winston.
And get a whole, information.
Yeah.
So I contacted Deanna and got her view on Stanley. However, I never got any reply back, leaving answers unanswered. Only time will tell, but for now, let us dive back into the interview.
I do know this. The truth will set me free. And the truth may not be known for years and years. But eventually, as viewers, you can make up your own mind based on whatever evidence there is. And I have shown evidence. Right now, Stanley hasn't been able to show too much evidence that's recorded. So therefore, it's he said, she said, of which we've had a lot of that lately in the news. Whenever it comes down to whatever someone says, you have to base your opinion on who you think is telling the truth. And sometimes it's just not provable. So that's the position I'm in. He makes a lot of accusations, and then I try to explain it. But how do you explain it away when it's all made up in his mind?
Who do you think, the family, who do you think would, which side would they pick? Your statement or his statement?
No, they would all pick their dad, or it would be a tie vote, because these kids are not loyal. I carried them around for 9 months, each of them. I changed their poopy diapers. I wiped them from stem to stern. I took care of them. I sat up at night. I rocked them. I nursed every one of them. And then it comes down to making a vote, and, the tie vote. A tie vote? Give me a break.
You think you should be voted?
I think I should be voted because I carried him around for 9 months. Mothers give up a whole lot.
So there is one thing. He always says no. You open your mouth for one thing.
It's
And
a
first-
wonder that we got married. They said, "Will you take this woman to be your wife?" And he didn't say no.
But doesn't he do that? Like, you open
Yeah,
your
that's-
mouth for
yeah,
one
he's-
thing,
he's
and he's like, okay, so tell me how many times has he been negative to you, even though you had a statement that is probably right most of the time?
I would say probably 60%, more than half of the time. He just likes the argument. Really, I think he disputes facts. Now, I will say, I read so-and-so about so-and-so, and he will bust a gut to go to the computer and maybe to challenge me on that very fact. I'm not only repeating what I read, I'm not saying I believe it, because so much of our news is fake news. So you really don't know what is truth out there. But he will dispute me every chance he gets.
And he thinks he is always right about everything.
And he thinks that he's right. Most of the time. Ask Deanna.
Deanna.
Deanna may be my saving grace here.
Give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, like me.
So, I understand that this is supposed to be about he said, she said. I want you to understand the power of she said. Can't argue with it. It's dangerous.